By the time you guys watch this, obviously, Donald Trump will no longer be president-elect, and he will be the 45th president of the United States. So I decided that I wasn't gonna make, a video about the inauguration. I wasn't gonna talk about anything in the inauguration because I personally didn't really watch the inauguration all that much. I mean, my friend Sipo, Emily and I, we watched it, but literally just for a bit, and that was actually before the entire inauguration started. And part of the reason why I personally didn't want to watch the inauguration is because I didn't really think that there was anything new that I was going to learn from watching the inauguration from him. And I also didn't think that there was anything monumental that I was going to miss. So that's personally why I didn't watch it. So if you guys are going to be looking for any updates from that, I'll share a little bit, I suppose, on Facebook of what I can find, but I'm not going to go in depth. What I am interested, though, when it comes to Donald Trump is the first 100 days. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, but in US politics, the first 100 days is a big deal because that's where big policy changes can be made. That's where, everything basically kind of goes down, and it sets the tone for his presidency. So I'm more interested in his first 100 days than his inauguration. I mean, it happened. He's the president. We all knew that that was what's going to happen. But what I did want to talk about in relation to him was for us to basically talk about his rhetoric in the past week. Some of the things that he's been saying that I thought have been very interesting. The first thing that he said that I found, kind of interesting is sort of a follow-up of what we talked about before, about the whole issue of Obamacare. So he basically went on to say that, look, they're working on the final stages to replace Obamacare, but he wouldn't give specifics. But he did say that this new one that would be coming in would be insurance for everybody. But again, no specifics were given. He did also mention that, he's expecting the Republicans in Congress to move really quickly with a lot of policy changes, including Obamacare, tax cuts, and obviously that wall along the Mexican border. And he basically said that, if they're not going to be moving fast enough, he's going to, use the might of his presidency. I'm assuming his Twitter as well, to kind of get them to, ship up and do things the way that he wants to, which it's going to be very interesting. Again, why that first 100 days for me is so interesting, because it's going to be revealing quite a bit. Okay, so the second interesting thing that he said this week is that he found himself obviously making comments regarding Brexit. It's not that out of the ordinary. I mean, everybody's been giving their input. He basically said that it was Europe's acceptance of all the illegals that caused Britain to want to leave. And, by his rhetoric and the things that he was saying, it sounds like it's something that he kind of understands, because he was basically saying that, people, want their countries, they want their own identity. And for as long as, these types of things are happening, people are going to want to leave. What I found interesting was his use of, them taking in the illegals with all of their problems. I mean, look, if anything, I think it further again shows his view on immigration and how he feels about people who are coming into, various countries for whatever reasons, seeking refuge and seeking help. And I think obviously it ties into, his views that he's been sharing on the campaign trail, whether it's about Muslims and, obviously this wall that he's trying to build, it's little things like this. And what I find interesting or somewhat troubling is the fact that, he uses the words that he uses. I sometimes think that, he doesn't think it all the way through, because words mean things, and if you're going to use certain words, they have, certain impact on people. And I just feel like, again, he's finding himself where he's choosing these words and he's saying these things that aren't really inspiring confidence in people. So speaking about his choice in words, last week he got into a bit of a, let's call it a Twitter beef, because I mean that's what he did basically with John Lewis. So John Lewis was on NBC's Meet the Press, and he was talking about the whole election and obviously Trump being president-elect, and he basically said that he doesn't recognize Trump because he feels like Trump is an illegitimate president. So it was basically hashtag not my president. And of course, he just was giving his own opinion, because he's like, he feels that, Russia had some involvement in all of that, and that's why he feels that, for him anyway, Trump is an illegitimate president. Of course, Trump took to Twitter and basically said that, what, John needs to focus on, bettering his community, you know, and bettering the people there, and that, you know, it's crime infested. Hold on, let me actually get word for word what he said. Okay, so word for word, this is what Donald Trump says. He says, John should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime infested, rather than falsely complaining about the election results. So again, it kind of goes back to my thing about, you know, the words that he chooses, that again with his choice of words, you know, and you have to take the undertone of those words and what they actually mean. And that's why so many African Americans, after he made that statement, you know, they took it so personally, which is something that I think everyone can kind of understand, you know. And again, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that, you know, his choice in words and how he says things, and, you know, the way he chooses to phrase them. And also, I feel like it speaks a little bit to his leadership. I mean, you guys let me know what you think. The fact that someone can voice their opinion, you know, and say what it is that, you know, how they feel or they take on him, and for him to respond the way that he did, you know, it's almost kind of like, well, if you don't like me, I don't care, do this and this and this. I don't know if that. Another thing that happened in this week, he was basically saying to German car manufacturers that if they want to sell their cars in the United States, they need to be prepared for a 35% tax, because he's basically saying that, you know, if you're going to manufacture cars, you know, in like all over the world, all the best to you. But if you want to bring them over to the US and sell them in there, he's talking about 35%. You're going to build a factory in Mexico to, you know, make these cars. You need to be prepared for 35%, you know. So again, you know, first 100 days, these are the things that I'm interested in. These are, you know, again, based off of his rhetoric, these are the things that I think, you know, we need to be paying attention to, you know, his economic policies, you know, his tax regime, his tax policy, what that's going to look like, you know, all of these things for me are of more interest than obviously the inauguration. But yeah, so he basically said, if you want to build cars in the world, then I wish you all the best. You can build cars for the United States, but for every car that comes to the US, you will pay 35% tax. I would tell BMW that if they're building a factory in Mexico and plan to sell cars to the USA without a 35% tax, then they can forget it. So, first 100 days, again, to what I'm looking forward to what we should be paying attention to. Oh, just a little thing about the inauguration. Obviously, you guys have seen it, and you obviously know that when the president and VP get sworn in, you know, hand on Bible and the whole sleeves. What I found interesting, for me, just a fun fact, was that Trump used the Bible that Lincoln used when he was being inaugurated. What I found very, very telling, though, was that Clarence Thomas was, you know, officiating the oath of. Is it officiating? What's the word I'm looking for? I think it's administrating. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but yes, he was doing that. What I found interesting was the Bible that Mike Pence used, and it was Ronald Reagan's old Bible. If that isn't telling, I don't know what is.